Hello, everyone, and welcome to Healthy at Work. My name is Catherine Wilcox, a workplace health specialist with a big passion for helping people thrive at work. From the home office to the corporate office, from the assembly line to the front line, I've got you covered here for your healthiest life at work. Now let's dive into today's show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of Healthy at Work. Thank you for tuning in today to the show. My name is Catherine Wilcox. I use she and they pronouns, and I'm a workplace health specialist with a big passion for helping people to thrive at work. Whether you work remotely or in an office environment, whether you're a shift worker or a first responder or an entrepreneur. Healthy at Work will offer you some new insights, conversations, and practices to help empower you in your working life. And we know that our working lives constitute a big part of our lives for most people. On the average, we spend actually about a third of our waking hours each week at work. Now, that's an average of 90,000 hours over the course of your lifetime, which is a significant amount of time to be spending in any environment. We also know that work is one of the biggest reported stressors. So, for example, according to Gallup's State of the Global Workplace report, 60% of workers worldwide report being emotionally disconnected at work, while 19% actually say that they're outright miserable at work. So, this is an important topic. It's an important part of our lives. And I'm really excited to enter into this space and share what I've learned over the last 20 years as a registered clinical counselor who's worked really extensively with people struggling with different workplace health issues. I've worked with people who are experiencing burnout, bullying, trauma exposure. Harassment and psychological injury of various kinds. I've helped people and their employers improve working life and working conditions. And I've also had very personal experiences of burnout throughout my own career, which really informed the way I approach my work today. And today, I find myself, as a working parent, a caregiver. I also identify as queer and non-binary, and as a white settler on Indigenous lands. So I've really learned through my own challenges and through my own social identities as well, and some of the gifts and challenges that come with that, um, how to put my health at the forefront of my working life, and love speaking to guests and others who are striving to do the same. And my journey is certainly not a perfect one. And it's really more for my own self about being in community with people who are also striving to be their healthiest and upholding one another collectively as we go about our lives and our working lives. And so I thought in this first introductory episode, it might be helpful to share a bit over the course of my 20 years of counseling and workplace intervention and facilitation and support, to share some of the top reasons why people actually reach out to me for help, reach out for support. Some of these reasons might surprise you. Some of them may be unsurprising. Maybe you can relate if you've been struggling for a while in your workplace. And so, just a bit of a teaser and a heads up as well that our first episodes of this podcast will really focus on these topics at hand. And so I just wanted to start with the top reason, the number one reason why people reach out. It's some version of "I can't stand my boss" or "my boss is a bleepity bleep bleep bleep." Again, unsurprising because we know that actually having a good leader, having a leader that you respect and trust, is one of the best predictors of work satisfaction and retention in the workplace. So maybe you're a leader listening to this. I know I've been in leadership for a long time my own self, and we have a big impact on people's mental health and well-being, even more so perhaps than their partners or other significant people in their life they spend a lot of time with. And so how do we navigate issues around, our leaders and when that relationship isn't functioning well? We're definitely going to dive into that in this podcast. The second reason is not dissimilar. There are some connections, and they have to do with our coworkers. So some version of I'm having a problem with a coworker or with coworkers, with the people in my workplace. Again, the people that we are around on our teams, regardless, of what types of teams those might be, remote teams, teams in the field, the people that we spend the most time with can really impact our health at work. So what do we do when those relationships aren't going well? What do we do when we find ourselves struggling in conflict, when we are the recipient of workplace bullying, when somebody's taking credit for our work, when we're being excluded in the workplace? There's, a number of different challenges that we can face with regard to our relational health in the workplace. So what do we do? We'll be diving into that as well. This next one is one I hear very frequently, and the language around this next challenge really fascinates me. It has to do with workplace toxicity. So my workplace is toxic. I work in a toxic environment. I have a toxic workplace. This person is toxic. My boss is toxic. We hear the word toxicity a lot in describing challenges with the workplace today. And so what does this actually mean? When people use the word toxic, I think that they're often trying to signal that there's something really wrong happening here. And maybe there is a collection of things happening that are really, really wrong. But what this word means can vary, right? Person to person and workplace to workplace. It's definitely a signal, and a signal that support, help, and change is needed. But what it means specifically, it could point to a variety of different things, different behaviors, different work cultures, different conditions people are experiencing. And so we will dive in a future episode to the idea of workplace toxicity, how that shows up, what it means, and we'll unpack the term in a later episode down the road. The next top reason people would reach out, workload. Workload is too much. It's overwhelming. I'm being asked to do more and more and more with less and less and less. I'm being asked to do my work, my leader's work, my coworkers' work. I know that, at the time of the recording of this podcast, we find ourselves in a time of great economic uncertainty. There are a lot of layoffs happening. There are a lot of efficiency reviews and financial challenges that many organizations and businesses are facing right now. And so, for some people, this means doing more work, taking on more, and less resources in the workplace in general. So, how do we navigate? How do we negotiate issues around workload? What is it that we can do to empower ourselves if we find ourselves in a situation where our workload is excessive and unreasonable? We'll dive into that one. The next one has to do with balancing the demands of work and life. So I shared with you earlier, I'm a caregiver myself. I have people relying on me outside of my work for care, for support. Some of us have young children, some of us have aging parents. We find ourselves, just with a sea of demands that we're drowning in. So how do we navigate this? What are the supports, the boundaries, the self-compassion that's needed as caregivers to take care of ourselves, as well as those that are, relying on us for care? This is a topic that's very near and dear to my heart, and we'll definitely be diving into that as well. So those are the top 5, I would say, and if heard something in that list that resonates with your own experience, if you're struggling with any of these, please know that you're not alone. They're in a top 5 for a reason because many people struggle. And something else that I think is really important for us to keep in mind as we navigate these challenges and many of the conversations that we'll have in this podcast is that um, we tend to really individualize and pathologize the challenges that we face. We feel alone often in what we're struggling with, and we think it's us, right? And particularly with issues like burnout in the workplace, um, many of us can feel like we're feeling that it's, because we're not working hard enough, or we're not competent enough, or we're not, hustling enough, that there's something wrong with us. We're not good at our job, for example. And so I think it's really important to understand a bit about the conditions and the systems that can contribute to workplace health challenges and struggles. So we'll be unpacking that a lot as we go through some of the conversations we'll have in this show. So I wanted to leave you today with a couple actions, things that you can think about doing today if you are struggling with any of these challenges. And the first one is really to seek support. And I encourage people to seek support where they feel safest to do so. Sometimes our work places are not the safest places for us to seek support, to tell someone that we're struggling. That can really depend on the conditions that you're facing and experiencing. So, seeking support where you feel safest, that might be inside your workplace, that might be to a support outside your workplace as well. So, tell somebody that you're struggling. The other thing I encourage you to think about is that work, although an important part of our life, is not the only part of our life. So I like to think about in my own life the people that are relying on me outside of work, the interests that I have outside of work, the relationships that are important, the causes that are important to me. We live in a society that will bombard us with the message that we're only as valuable as what we produce. And certainly our workplaces can also uphold that messaging that, our value comes from us not being humans who are inherently valuable and worthy of dignity and respect, but rather the idea that we're only as valuable as what we can contribute and produce. And so I really like to contest that and challenge that in my own approach to workplace health as we think about how to humanize work and bring our human selves to work as well. So, just remembering that we are more than our work, we are more than just what we produce and contribute, as important as that might be to many of us. And then this final reminder, something that I've shared already, but I think is definitely worth repeating is, understanding that a lot of the problems that we may be experiencing at work relate to systems at work. And that's not to say that it's all on the system or all on us. Most often, it's an interaction between us and the environments that we're working in. And when we are in an environment where there are conditions that are harming us, of course, we're going to experience burnout. Of course, we're going to be overwhelmed. Of course, we're going to be struggling. And so, just understanding that we play a role, absolutely, but it's not all on us either. When we think about psychological health and safety in general in the workplace, we know that's a shared responsibility, that there are some responsibilities employers have, there are responsibilities that leaders have, and there are responsibilities that we all have as workers as well, regardless of the workplace that we attend and are part of. So that's it for today. I hope you'll join me next time as we dive into some of the topics that I introduced in this session. I'm very much looking forward to being with you in this space. Don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions, if you have ideas for future shows. I'm really looking forward to supporting this space as we move forward, and join us next time. Thanks. Thanks for listening today. This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only and is not medical advice or mental health treatment. If you're struggling at work, please reach out to the supports within your workplace or community. This podcast was gratefully recorded on the unceded and ancestral homelands of the Lekwungen-speaking people of the Songhees and Esquimalt nations.